Many of us have heard the parable of the sower. Seeds everywhere, some took root, some did not. But have you ever considered why Jesus only explained the meaning of the parable with his disciples and not the entire crowd? That's what we're diving into today. All right, welcome back to Catholic Founders. We are doing a little bit of a special episode today because I kind of felt inspired this week. I know I did say our next episode would be on the business side of our discussion with Alessandro from Hallow, but I hope you'll bear with me for a moment while I have this kind of inspiration and I wanted to share. So, a couple admin things before we get started. Be sure to click follow in whatever podcast player you listen to so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. Also, go ahead and subscribe to the Substack that we have. If you do not subscribe on the Substack, you'll miss out on the written content, for example. We just put out actually the written guide version of the podcast we did with Alessandro, episode 1. It's basically the guide to prayer for an entrepreneur, so don't miss out on that. Again, if you do not subscribe on Substack, you will not get the written content. So there's much more than just the podcast. And then, of course, we always ask you, please do share. The only way this podcast grows is through you guys sharing this content with other people who share the similar similar mentality. We're not exactly marketing this far and wide. We're definitely not putting paid marketing behind this. So if you can help us out by sharing with other people who share the values of what building Catholic businesses and living our faith seriously in our businesses, that'd be really, really helpful. And then finally, please give us a review on Apple or Spotify if that's where you listen. Drop us 5 stars and leave us a review. And hopefully, maybe we can just hack the algorithm a little bit to get this in front of many more people. So, on Wednesday, January 29th, the gospel of the kind of standard calendar, not the traditional Latin Mass calendar, was Mark chapter 4, verses 1 through 20. So that's the parable of the sower. And, most of the time when people talk about this parable, they talk about the parable itself. They talk about what it really means, what the specific types of sowing are and how do we reap, etc. And that day when I listened to the Daily Exegesis podcast, I think it's called the Logical Bible Study podcast. I listened through the Hallow app, so I actually don't know the exact the location to find it, but I listened in the Hallow app. He discussed the reason why Jesus taught the parables and how it is that we get the explanation, right? So kind of why the parables are the way they are, why he speaks in parables officially, and then he talked a little bit about explaining it to the gospel to the disciples. And reflections on this gospel again tend to center around the meaning of the parable, what it means to sow, and how Jesus kind of chose to speak to the disciples afterwards, right? It's kind of a unique situation. We don't usually get this. But what really stood out to me was how Jesus willingly shared the meaning of the parable with his disciples, despite intentionally not sharing it with the large crowd. So that's what I want to talk about. So let's kind of just do a quick TLDR on the parable, just as a refresher. So it starts out that Jesus ends up preaching to the crowd from a boat. So he wasn't able to. There's just too many people, so he kind of goes out onto the water, and voice carries where they're well over water. So he preaches out to them the parable of the sower, where he sows seeds on the path, on the rocks, and on the fertile ground, and the seeds that are sown on the path get eaten up by the birds. The seeds that are sown on the rocky ground do take a little bit of root, but they they die out quickly because they don't have deep roots. The seeds that are thrown into the thorns end up being choked out by the weeds, and then on the good soil ends up producing fruit and bearing, in some cases, 10, 60, or 100-fold. I think those are the specific numbers. So, afterwards, after he's done explaining this parable, or giving this parable to the crowds, it mentions that he shares the meaning of the parable with his disciples because they ask him, hey, what's this all about? So that's it's just a kind of a recap. Now, what's important is, again, that Jesus does not explain the parable to the general crowd. Instead, he shares the deeper meaning of it, only with those who have committed to following him, to his disciples, right? To the ones who are there in his inner circle, spending a lot of time trying to get to know him. So this suggests that true understanding of Christ's teaching requires discipleship first, not the other way around, right? It's not that we become disciples through knowing. We can learn deeply through becoming disciples, right? So I think this is something very important for us to consider as entrepreneurs, right? And as people of faith, right? We typically want intellectual certainty before we become a quote-unquote follower of Jesus. And from this story, I think we get the understanding that really we need to take that leap from belief to action. That is what is going to end up helping us understand a deeper meaning of his teachings, right? Once we can make that commitment to be followers and to be action oriented people, that's when he will kind of reveal more things to us. Again, I'm not suggesting that we can then interpret the scriptures officially, right? That's the role of the Pope and the Church. But at the bare minimum, we can individually come into a deeper understanding of what that means for us and what for our lives. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of opportunity to evangelize to the people around us, and we have a little bit of authority in our own way, right? Not the same authority as the church, but within our businesses, with our employees, with our customers. And having that ability to deeply understand the scriptures allows us to more fully live them. Again, comes back to that kind of that catch-22, the chicken and the egg. Do you become a follower after you know, or do you become a follower and then learn because of it? So that's what I wanted to reflect on today. And I guess just the takeaway for us is, again, remembering that we have this responsibility to the people around us, to our communities, to our families, to the families that we employ, to our customers. We have this responsibility to them. And if we truly take that seriously, if we want to do that well, we should commit before anything, even before our focus on our business aspect. We should commit to becoming disciples and followers of Jesus, so that we can come closer to him, and that he may, in that experience that we have, he may reveal to us more of the deeper meanings of what he's trying to teach, right? So a little bit of a short episode for you today. Let me know what you thought of this, what you think of the length of the episode and the content itself. Always, looking to iterate and get better for what you guys are listening for. Also, do let me know your thoughts on this reflection as well. Feel free to leave some comments on the Substack post where this will be shared. And until next time, God bless and happy building.